Greetings. Hi. Hello. I am firelotusthewitch, and thank you for joining another live Witches Chat. Welcome. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get all the notifications of when I actually go live. Today is actually going to be a very cool little video. I don't know how long this live is going to be, but due to one or two questions that I've recently been asked in my inbox, I thought that this would be a perfect video. Hold that thought. Not life. That's not supposed to say life. Thank you. Sorry, y'all. I was responding to a text message. Good morning, everybody. And thank you. Love you too. So yesterday I kind of sparked the idea, and then how spirit has been working with me. It's been moving to other people. I talked about ant eggs yesterday and how you can kind of use them in your practice. This video is going to be on how to actually apply different things to your practice. Specifically, I got a message saying that they wanted to know if snake skin can be used in a practice for transformation. And if you did not know, yes, it can. Insects, anything that goes through different stages and like sheds their exoskeleton or their skin, it can be applied into your practice for transformation, a new chapter, so forth and so on. Whether like, well, I'm still kind of confused on how to actually like apply it. And this is the cool part. Now, if you can get a full snake skin or just a little bit of snake skin, get a taper candle or tapestry candle, get one of the like pointy ones, and you're going to wrap that skin around it. So yes, it's going to burn, but it's also going to what? Shed off the candle as the candle starts to melt. Thus, you're shedding your skin and transforming. Feathers, crow feathers, bird feathers, chicken feathers, they can be used for sending messages. They can be used for sending dreams. They can be used to help you move, to help you literally, because some birds are migrative. So if you're planning on a trip or planning a giant move, kind of find a bird that represents that in the area that you're trying to move to and incorporate that in as a way that you can actually move there or migrate there, if you will. Ant eggs and ant dirt, you could use the dirt in itself as the protective circle. You could actually, hello, if you can get enough dirt or ant hill dirt without disturbing fully of the nest, build an actual, well, house. With that, you know how you can go thrifting and stuff like that? Try to find an old school small house, specifically a glass one. You can fill that house up with the things that you want to bring into your practice and bring into your life. Another thing that this also reminds me of, which a lot of people have not talking about, and it's very simple but very strong magic, which is a manifestation box. Basically, specifically how I learned it, silver or gold, but it can be any color you resonate with. And you're going to get physical items like a miniature house, get toys that represent the physical manifestations that you would like to manifest in. Put all of that in a box. Then you're going to seal that box with, like I said, silver or gold, depending on whatever color you associate with a ribbon. You're going to charge it under the full moon or the new moon. Specifically, I would do it under the new moon because it's like planting a seed. So the time from the new moon all the way into the full moon, it's giving you 28 to 29 days, depending on the lunar cycle, to actually fully manifest. When an item manifests from said box, you remove said item. And then basically just repeat the process. But this is especially great for people who are still in the broom closet who can't necessarily openly practice. And that's another thing that when I go back to TikTok that I'm also going to be making a small series on is this misconception that because there was this viral video that went around where this practitioner who was working at this store put some herbs in a satchel and it's like, carry this with you and it can cure anxiety and depression. And a lot of people stitch that and they're like, I don't know if that's going to work. That's just it, though. Folk magic does not look like, say, European magic. It doesn't look like the pentagrams and everything like that. Why? Excuse me. Because in their timeline, the time that people were using folk magic, for one, it's not going to look like magic because to them, it's not considered magic. Appalachian folk magic, a lot of people will tell you that that's not magic, that's a way of living. it's not going to be like we say as you're dressing a candle, lighting it on fire, and waiting for it to, you know, burn down. Folk magic is the idea in a way that simple things, just by carrying something on you, will actually bring its power of the herb. So instead of digesting the herb, you're using the energy of the herb to actually affect your physical body. It's the same way that I'm pretty sure people have heard the tale where if somebody's sick, you get an onion, you cut the onion in half, and then you place it up under their bed. And within 24 hours to 2 days, it will absorb all that negative energy and the sickness, thus healing the person. That's what we mean by that. And a lot of people, like I used to say, well, I don't have any witches like practicing in my family. I'm primarily, or at least one of the major sides of my family is from Appalachia. In Appalachia, like I said before, they don't consider this magic. They consider it a way of living. That's one of the reasons they use the Bible in their practice, because they believe the word of God in a way. And depending on how and what region you're in, a lot of people believe that their special gifts were bestowed on them by God or by spirits at birth. One of my exes and still good friends today, he was actually born with a veil over him. His father was too, and two other people in his family were born with a veil over them. Basically, it's a piece of skin that's covering your eyes. People that were born like that were believed to be extremely sensitive, heightened people, especially when it comes to sight, sensing spirits and stuff like that. And ironically, with that, and it's so cool, the reason I'm saying ironically is because me and him kind of started our practices together. We both helped each other initiate each other into the practices that we were doing. Um, and now, fast forward, I'm doing what I'm doing now, and then he's also doing his own thing with a specific type of community. Now, I addressed this yesterday, and I know a lot of people, when they see this video, they're not going to give two fucks, but I'm telling you like it is. The internet has ruined the definition of a closed practice. A closed practice, yes, you have to be initiated only, which most majority of closed practices are that, and or you actually have to be of said descendant, if you will, in order to practice that. If you think a practice is closed, reach out to not just one person, multiple people in that practice and get their information on it. With some of the closed practices that I'm aware of, the reason it's closed is because unless you are identified by the spirits or energy that they work with, basically they have to do some type of divination, or the energies they work with will come to them with dreams or in a reading or something like that, that basically says, no, yes, you have been identified. And thus they'll eventually start they'll start the initiation process. It's going to be different for everybody. Just like a lot of people online, we group. I've done it too until it was like pointed out to me. We tend to group natives together in this giant ass basket when in reality they're not. They're regional. So what natives in Alaska versus natives down here in Florida or natives in Arizona, they're not all going to practice the same thing, and they're not going to have all the same beliefs. And that's the number one thing that needs to be addressed. No, I'm not talking about sage or anything like that. But there are multiple things that are practiced in multiple different types of practices that people will see a video on and they're like, "Oh, you're cultural appropriating. You're doing something that's only part of a closed practice." Specifically, and perfect example of when I started doing honey jars. I got so much hate. This is closed. You're only supposed to do this if you're hoodoo or voodoo. Southern Conjure is a birth and a mixture of all of that combined. Are there certain things in Southern Conjure that I will not touch with a 5-foot to a 10-foot pole? Yes, there are. But are there a lot of things, if you actually digest the history of how this Southern Conjure was created, you will understand that there are a lot of things, the reason they're not closed was because they were cultural exchanged, as in this culture and this culture came together and willingly shared and traded things. And that's what boggles me the most, because a lot of this misinformation that's happening, it's not people of said practice. It's random people on the internet. It's driving me crazy. But honey jars, honey in general, can be used in so many different practices and so many different ways in your practice without actually stepping on and or taking from another culture. The fucking brick dust. So many people were like, well, brick dust has only been used by voodoo and hoodoo practitioners. Yes, they have. But ancient Egyptians used them. Mayans used them. So many different cultures throughout history have used them in some way, shape, or form. And that's what's bothering me. But anyways, back to what we were saying. But things like this can be used. Like, I'd never even thought about using a bird nest in your practice for protection. A lot of people, when they hear wasp nest, they automatically go to baneful workings. You can use that with protection. Almost everything you can find out there that can be used for baneful workings can be turned around, and there is a positive working for it. The number one problem that I'm seeing a lot of is a lot of people automatically go to hexing and cursing. Why? It's not going to do anything. It's going to be a slap on the wrist depending on the personality. So instead of doing that, try a retribution spell. A retribution spell is basically a spell. Instead of just throwing one thing at them, and it's not to destroy their lives or anything like that, a retribution spell is to, if it's worked properly, it basically will repeat the same pattern over and over again until said person realizes and they're like, oh, fuck, I need to stop this. I need to change this. That's what a retribution spell is. Not to mention all these people throwing hexes and curses. Are you putting an expiration date on that hex or curse? Because if not, you're feeding it. I made a video that some people did not agree on, and that's perfectly okay. Good morning. Which is, if you have this giant collection of hex jars, or putting people in jars, and you're saving on to that for months and years, how are you supposed to let go and actually be in the now if you're constantly having anchors that are anchoring you to past situations? Even when it comes to hexing and cursing, do it to where it has some type of expiration date, depending on where your moral compass is and what the person did to be justified in hexing or cursing them. But it needs to have one. Another perfect example, an actual in my personal life, not personal practice though. My ex sister-in-law, they were into some heavy shit, specifically the mom. She was more of a dabbler. But when I mean she was a dabbler, she would knee deep that shit into some dark, stagnant energy. So she wanted to get this house, and somebody had basically put an offer on it. So what did she decide to do? She decided to hex the house. To this day, that house has not sold. It will not rent. In the process of that, she also fucked herself out of being able to move into the property. Hexing is not the only thing you can do when it comes to any situation in life. Obviously, go down the mundane route. In all the Southern Conjure books that I have, except for the Jake Richards book, but it also has a chapter in that as well, they teach you and they tell you, think before you cast. Is it worth you putting that type of energy out there? And I understand people swim in that type of energy, and I'm not hating. I understand. Just like to my favorite all-time quote of any fucking magical movie, nature is loving and cruel. They're both. You're not going to find it. There's not going to be this, oh, all loving and healing. I understand, because, and by the way, for anybody who's watching this or rewatching this, if you want an episode of a podcast to mentally fuck you up in the best way possible and bring you to possible fucking tears, Seba, the Southern Fried Witch, their last episode that they did, they interviewed a fucking preacher. They interviewed a preacher of a church who hired a witch to do protection on said church, and it has worked till this day. And he actually deep dives into his perspective of it and how much negative shit has came from Christianity as a whole due to the fact that it has been morphed and just shifted into that. But in general, when it comes to using things like that, think outside the box. I've never heard or never even thought of using a bird's nest in my practice for protection. But in a way, it makes sense, because some of the items that you can collect all around your house, like dirt dauber nest, you can find them pretty much almost anywhere, depending on where you're at. They can be used for prosperity, for protection, for healing, for love. So many different aspects to these, but everybody automatically goes to hexing. Hexing is cool, yeah, great, but there's so much more to that. Plus, with me, I'm the type of person, I would rather let somebody learn their lesson than just to send them negative shit constantly. They're not going to learn their lesson at all. Which is why a lot of the times I won't even, it's not worth my time or energy, and that's what people also need to realize. And yes, I know a lot of people are probably tuning into this to be like, oh, what's going on? Are you talking? No, the situation that happened on TikTok is slowly being resolved. Literally, me and one person talked as adults this morning, resolved. I'm still waiting on the other person to resolve that. So, no, anything I'm saying has nothing to do with that. But it was just like when the storm system hit our property And I collected leaves, and I had a lot of people like, why are you collecting leaves that were blown off a tree during a fucking huge storm system? It holds the kinetic energy in it. So I can use those leaves in a spell and harness that kinetic energy that is left over. I collected the dirt that the branch was ripped off and thrown into. So many things that we pass by on a regular day basis can be used in our practice. So many things. And that's the glory of it, is because I'm constantly hearing new ideas. Um, I want to say it's certifiably gay. I think that's what his hashtag is. Hexing should be the last resort. Exactly, it really should, and that's what I was taught. I was taught that hexing needs to be the absolute last thing you do, because do I believe in karma? No. I'm sorry. The original definition, yes. But that doesn't mean that I apply it into my practice. I do believe in the ripple effect, or some people call it the butterfly effect. Everything we do in some way, shape, or form cause an effect. I mean, a butterfly halfway in Africa can flap its wings just the right way and spawn off a fucking hurricane that wipes out the coast. The world that we live in is fucking insane, but it's all connected. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad I'm taking the breaks that I am, because I needed it. I needed to realize that I myself was falling in this pattern of opening and closing an app, opening and closing an app. And everybody's going to go through things like this. But when it comes to your practice, and I know a lot of people will not agree with me, and I don't care, but you're taking power away from yourself. We ourselves can create our own magical correspondences. That's not necessarily to say they're all going to work. Honestly, witchcraft is nothing but trial and error. That is literally the full definition of it. Trial and error and manipulating the world around you are the particles around you that make up our world. Um, I've done things to manipulate time. Does it actually manipulate time itself? No, it manipulates your perspective of time, which at the end of the day is what magic does. It's the same reason we have those breathing techniques. You're changing the oxygen levels throughout your body, primarily to your brain. In the process of that, what does it do? It changes your perspective. You're either going higher or lower, depending on what you're doing. And there are so many things that our modern world that we're living in, it can be incorporated into, that a lot of people just don't think about, or they don't seem witchy enough. Using modern day songs. Holy crap, at some point, when is it okay to transition topics? Can we talk about how energy cleanses before bed? It makes you sleep so much better. Oh, I love that. I love that. And I actually got a question like that semi yesterday. Like, what happens when you do a quote unquote baneful working? How do you cleanse that? How do you get it away from you? Another thing that nobody incorporates, everybody talks about grounding, right? There's a way that you can elevate that grounding. There's a documentary, I think it's called Earth Walking on Netflix. You can literally get a copper rod, stick it into the ground, get copper wiring, wrap it around there, run it through your window, get the electrical tape that they use on like AC units, make layers like that, connect the wires to it, and then sleep under it. Now, with that, please make sure that like it's not in a place that can be struck by lightning or anything. But scientifically, if you were to go outside and sleep on a ground, bed last night and I've never slept better. Oh, that is awesome. But if you were to theoretically go outside and sleep on the ground, literally just dig a small little hole, throw a cover on there, and sleep on the ground for 3 days, for 3 nights, your biological clock, your eternal clock, will be completely reset. Why is that? Because we ourselves are connected to the earth. Whether that is through pure energy that we give off or some other complex equation, I don't know, but we are connected to it. And yes, cleansing yourself before you go to sleep. I've actually never tried that. I will probably try that tonight. And it's just like the same things with protection. Everything that we do in life, whether that's magical or non-magical, has an opposite and equal reaction. What do I mean by this? If you hyperfixate on protection, you're going to have too much protection. What do I mean by this? Ambulances, fire department, police officers, delivery drivers, food drivers may not be able to find your place because it's too protected. If you go and you buy a brand new car and you add too much protection on that car or too fine of a protection, you could wind up becoming a blind spot for somebody else and cause an accident while protecting yourself. There's a perfect amount, even in spell work. If you don't ask correctly, you're gonna get what you asked for, but not exactly how you asked it. Um, and then by all means, please think before you really do anything that could spark major life change. If you followed me for a while, you know how I had that witch fell that completely threw my entire life upside down and in a kaleidoscope. But I used a very, very powerful mantra. If y'all do not know about mantras, there are hundreds of them on the internet. Be very careful. Look through the comments of said videos because a lot of them use different hertz and frequencies. Those frequencies can do a bunch of bad shit to your head depending on what frequency that is. I learned that the hard way as well. I listened to a astral travel one slash like prosthetic sleep one. All it did was cause me massive fucking nightmares for 3 days straight. And when I mean massive nightmares, I woke up crying my eyes out. And I couldn't figure out what the fuck was going on because I don't really have nightmares. And if I do, normally I don't really remember them. Luckily. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. So I went back to the video and I like deep dived the comments. Come to find out, 2 of the hertz that they use in that videos, for anybody who has any trauma or anything like that, it can cause massive like fucking night terrors. But mantras in general can be extremely fucking powerful. And no, for anybody asking, no, it's not really culture appropriating because you're not using it in a disrespectful way. You're not stereotyping it or anything like that. There is one, it's called a ganache. I know I probably pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry, but ganache, wish one. And basically, it will do what it says it's going to do. Just please be cautious. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but be cautious. And do not use that if you're going to do that whole, well, I wish I was in this situation versus this situation, because let me tell you, the grass is not always greener on the other fucking side. I know this. I did it. I was having an argument with my partner, just a really, really fucking bad day, especially because we also used to work together. There was just a bunch of shit going on. I used it without even thinking that I was using it. And I started to like reminisce on the past. Well, guess what? A week and a half later, events out of our control happened and literally spun off a 2-year spiritual awakening. And oh my God, did I need that spiritual awakening? Yes, holy shit, I did. It helped birth eventually what is known as online firelotusthewitch. Um, but I went through so many major life lessons. I lost so many fucking people close to me that I didn't really experience loss because when I was younger, I didn't understand what it was. So yeah, and spiritually wise, fucking I evolved, I threw some shit out, I changed some things. There's another one for anybody who has like a tip job, as in you get tips depending on what you're doing. It's a money mantra. You can literally look it up. It's one of the top played ones here on and I'm gonna butcher this too, but it's basically called Shreem Brazim. And you listen to that for like 2 to 3 hours. And oh my God, if you have a job to where you can get tipped, use that. If you have a business, use that. My adopted grandmother, basically, because she adopted us, she owns a metaphysical shop. Well, technically, it's a crystal shop slash confinement shop. But she listens to it an hour every single morning, and she's the one that caught me onto it. Because she is a I want to say this correctly. I don't know the proper term of it, but they're it's part of Hindu. I believe it's part of Hindu. But I cannot think of the name of it, so I'm not actually gonna admit it. But she uses it, and oh my God, when we used to work at the restaurant we used to work at, my partner was a delivery driver. He was the head delivery driver there. The very first night he used it, he got tipped $100, which has never happened. I use it every now and then, and it also just in general, it brings peace and calm. But like I said, be very careful with using the ganache wish one because that will fuck you up if you do not do it properly. And I did not even do it properly. You're supposed to listen to it and write what you wish to happen down on a piece of paper. I just reminisced on old memories, and yeah, let's just say there is a reason if you ever get a chance to leave the town that you went to high school in. Leave it, at least for a month, maybe 2, and then come back. But things like this is what people don't talk about. Listen to what? It's, there's a wish and money mantra here on YouTube. I will probably be live for another 30 minutes. And I know the live that I did yesterday is not up. I realized that I spoke two things in there that I'm just not, it's just going to be private, but this one will be up. Um but things like that, it's people overcomplicate witchcraft. Yes, it can be very, very complex, but at the same time, it is your personal craft. And there are so many things that we see on a regular day basis that we don't use in our practice that we should and we could. Now, when it comes to feathers, please look at your state and regulations. The last thing you need to be doing is getting caught by a game patrol picking up a feather from I think it's a migratory bird and a any bird or prey. The feathers are technically illegal to own, and any body parts from said birds of migratory and or prey are illegal to own federally. So in other words, if you're getting shit like this, do not go online blasting it everywhere. There are a lot of things that I have in my practice that I do not show online because, well, there's no point of it. Now, with that being said, I will be talking about some of those things in my class that I'm hopefully going to do at the end of this month. Um, May was a shit show, and June is just, let's just say it, definitely feeling that fucking retrograde energy. Speaking of the retrogrades, always remember that you are going to feel a retrograde more when it goes direct. Why is this? So, retrograde, we already know from Earth, it looks like the planet's going backwards, but it's really not. But it's when it goes direct. When it goes direct and it goes back to that original placement before it went retrograde, it's going to catapult / slingshot that energy back to you. So right now, what I like to tell people is in the retrograde periods, we're seeing the waves of it, but we're not seeing the actual like everything falling into place until that shit goes direct. And let me tell you, magical or non-magical, it is wreaking fucking havoc everywhere. The amount of colossal fuckeries. How do we sign up for the classes you're offering? I have not figured that one out yet. They're going to be through Zoom. So in other words, depending on, more than likely it's going to be via email. You email me, payment happens, and then I'll shoot you a link on the night that it happens. I'm still working on that one myself, because I'm going to try to do two. One will be like the week before the last week, and then the last week of this month, I'm going to do another one. I also am working on a way that if you can't financially like get it, you're eventually still going to be able to watch it. Because the first one is going to be on basic energy and why it's important to learn energy work. So, but I'm working is just, I did not properly plan ahead because I forgot that this month I have like technically 4.5 interviews to do. And either I'm being done or I'm interviewing somebody. But normally in my life, everything that happens, it happens for a reason. And I try to look at a lesson for everything. So we're going to see how that happens. I am fucking super excited about this because I've been thinking about it for the past month and a half. Because the one thing I do have to make, though, is a spreadsheet. Because y'all know how I like to rant. And I got to keep on focus and points with that. But yeah, with like using ant eggs, you can use eggs in general. Eggs for fertility. Eggs for new beginnings. So many things that people overlook. And it wasn't until I got Jake Richards' books, both of them, that I realized how much stuff that is in my front yard right now that you can use for protection, painful, everything you can use it for. Instead of having to go out and buy from a herbal store or buy from Walmart or something like that. Obviously, if you can support a small business, by all means do that. But this concept that we have thanks to the internet and thanks to aesthetics, where if you don't have this, if you don't have that, if you don't have all this other shit, you're not a witch. I'm trying to squash that because Appalachian folk magic all over the world, not just Appalachia, Italian folk magic, there's a reason it's called folk magic. It's not going to look like, and I still cannot believe that people go back to, oh, well, I'm the witches your grandmother never burned or whatever the fuck. Do you honestly think witches back then had crystals and like giant pentagrams hanging up everywhere? Most of them, no. Most of them were just wise people of the community. They were healers. They knew how to make medicine. For an example, one of the main ingredients in Tylenol, white willow bark. Yes, I said that, white willow bark. That does not mean. Now, I do believe that there you go. There's you some research to look up to make sure you're knowing how to do it. Um, but we also have to remember, like, there's this huge topic recently, like, if you're on your medication from your doctor, you're not supposed to use it, right? Because it'll dampen your spiritual. That's bullshit. Anybody who tells you to stop taking your medications from a pharmaceutical or a trained doctor, if they're telling you to stop taking it, that is the biggest red flag you need to take from that, and you need to run and continue taking your medicine. Why is this? Because in order to perform magic correctly, you need to have a healthy spirit, healthy soul, and healthy mind. You're not going to be able to have that healthy mind if you're not on said medication. And I can say this because I am bipolar manic depression. I have ADHD mixed with anxiety. I have fucking complex PTSD. I'm on my own medication. And eventually one day I will be on medication from a doctor. Why? Because that's what I need. I was also that same person when I originally was taking medication where I'm like, oh no, I don't feel the vibe. I don't feel the energy. I'm no longer connected. That happens to everybody. If you ever wake up and you feel like you're no longer connected to everything, that means you need to stop everything and just kind of reconnect. Mundane things that happen in our lives every single fucking day affect our magical practices. The stress, the amount of stress that you're under can affect if a spell is going to be successful or not successful. This whole idea where people are just focusing on prosperity, as in a lot of people, when you hear prosperity, you think of money. Prosperity can be a lot of fucking things. I can be prosperity in food. I can have lots of food. With me and the way that I look and the way that everything that I've lived in my life, I've lived in houses, I've lived in apartments, I've lived in shitty ass trailers, I've lived in a car, I've lived on friends' couch before. When it comes to what you need, instead of focusing on money, try to ask for a solution to why you need the money to begin with. Now, I understand when that comes to bills, that's slightly different, but you understand what I mean. Instead of asking for the money that you need to get said object, do a spell to see if you can get that object to come to you. Like for the longest time, for almost a year last year, I needed a bookshelf. Did not have the money, did not want to go out and buy a brand new bookshelf. All of a sudden, my partner randomly called me and he's like, yo, I got you a bookshelf. It was on the side of the road. If you live in a college town, now please make sure you're not going to get trespassed or anything like that. If you live in a college town, I guarantee you when all those college people leaves, and I know this because I used to live in Gainesville where UF is at, they leave so much shit behind, it's not even funny. Most of it is just thrown out at the dumpster. Brand new shit. A lot of people tend to, keep manifesting that money. If you own a business, do not manifest money, manifest customers. When you do said spell to manifest customers, then go advertise as much as possible. Like I recently, as of yesterday, had somebody message me asking how did I get my witchy business up and still running. The universe, honestly. I put myself out there. I do all of this shit as much as I can, and yeah, like I'll advertise that I'll have readings like here for the new moon. I'm about to do another new moon sale where full oracle readings are going to be $10, and that'll be for 2 weeks this time versus the other time. I got a random black pennant last summer in my spider plant. Now I have ribs Americana growing in my irises. Never had the seeds. Do your land spirits gift you like that? Ooh, not really. I've not had mine gift me like that. But that is how it works. That's how I was always told. Even if you're like working with the divine force for like a deity for the very first time, and all of a sudden you see a random wild rose sprout out of nowhere like overnight, it means that basically they like what you're doing. No, with most of mine, actually I take that back. Not with plants. Uh Here recently I was like, well, I want to be able to use anthill. I know I keep obsession over anthill dirt. There's a reason why. Um and I needed a situation to where I needed ant eggs. And I was like, we barely have any ant hills on our property whatsoever. We don't really have ants out here. It just so happened something told me you need dirt from your magical circle that I have outside. The day that I did this, it was raining, so the soil was a little wet. So my high ass medicated self was like, well, I'll just pick up the cinder block that I sit on in the middle of my circle. Come to find out, a nest of fire ants had not only made their nursery up under it, but also made their nest up under it. And we lived on this property for 3 to 4 years. That's never happened before. So yes, just not with plants, but yes, that's how land spirits or deities or whatever you're working with, that's how they'll wind up doing things like that. They'll wind up gifting you in a way. I've heard of people have plants that randomly popped out of nowhere that do not grow in their area that do it. And that's why a lot of the time when I was first started TikTok, I did not understand why all these people were like, oh my God, the Fae left me a gift. The Fae left me a gift. What about your ancestors? What about your land spirits? What about your deities? Not everything you find outside is from the Fae. And normally, if it is, they're going to let you know it's from them. And before anybody asks, even if you rewatch this, you can healthily and successfully work with the Fae. You've just got to be respectful AF. And you can set boundaries with land spirits. They may not listen, but you can at least set them. Boundaries are important, especially in a magical life. And if you work with your ancestors, shout out if they've been extremely active in the past like 3 days, because mine have. My husband works with Mama Kala, but I don't really work with any deities. We still haven't figured out who they're coming from, but we're still showing appreciation. See, I love that. I love that. And please do, because eventually they will rebuild themselves. And you may have a deity coming to you very soon, because when you said that and I read that, I got chills on both arms, which in my way and in my practice, it's spirit validation. So you very well may have 1 or 2 deities reaching out to you. You're going to like one of them. One of them is going to have a very, very special connection to you, if that makes any sense. I don't know when, and I don't know who. They're not telling me. But they're coming. They're eventually going to be coming your way. And with that being said, if you ever get a deity reaching out to you and you do not want to work with that deity, just politely tell them no. It's not going to hurt their feelings. They're divine. And a creator recently made a video that was so dumbfounded perfect that it fucked so many people up, which is paganism, the online witching communities. It's a bunch of fandoms, which is true. Like very, very true. And I'll get into that a little bit. But yes, okay, thank you. Because mine have, my partner's has, I've experienced things. I just incorporated something new into my practice, which is spitting. Not used to spitting on things in my practice, but it happened. That also means I'm going to have to start buying, before I say this, YouTube. I am over the age of 21 in the state that I live in. I am 29. I'll be 30 next year, okay? Okay. With that being said, the grocery store that we go to have been having these like little bottles of whiskey, which is weird because I thought you're only supposed to sell whiskey with the liquor license. But they've been selling the Southern Comfort. I don't drink it, but my ancestors and a dear friend of mine that passed away, Wolf, is one of his favorite ones. So I've been like getting that, and the other night my ancestors were like, spit, and I'm like, what? I'm not spitting. And yeah, new things. But same with the dreams too, which is weird because I went like a month without remembering any of my dreams until last week. Last week is when it started. I've been having dreams left and fucking right. So there is a major shift coming, and I hate saying that because it sounds so like vague, but no, a lot of things are going to be happening very soon. How do you connect with your ancestors? Could they show up in your dreams? Yes, I love that question. Yes, they can show up in your dreams. So for anybody rewatching this too, I'm going to explain what I did to get the connection that I have. Nice, thanks. I've had an interesting Hecate, but haven't gone very far with it. Should I ask who might be reaching out? Yes, if you can, and you don't necessarily have to meditate. Whatever you do that calms you, that kind of just like a sigh of peace, ask then. Because I don't meditate. I do my twilight meditation, and other than that, even deities or ancestors, they'll just kind of come to me. Now with the ancestor thing, how do you do this? Can they reach your dreams? Yes. I started what I call it, and it's gone down in history as it, the 30-day spiritual challenge. And yes, I know that sounds like some weird after night special, like info commercial. It's simple though. I got a reading for a birthday gift. I got a reading from a psychic medium, and my ancestors came to me. Have you tried meditating instrumental music? My ancestors reached out to me and they told the psychic, they're like, all he's got to do is just ask. In other words, you have to let your ancestors know that you are ready and you are open and ready to receive. That's the first step. The second step is going to take 30 days, depending on this. Well, this is all going to be different for everybody. With me, when I first started doing this, random scents would randomly just pop up, and after deep diving, I associated them with certain ancestors. And now it's gotten to the point where I can give a reading to somebody and their ancestors may show up. But basically, all you do is take 5 to 10 minutes out of your day, morning and your night. I do it primarily in the morning time. And whatever you drink, coffee, tea, whatever it is, sit somewhere, if you can, isolated from everybody else, primarily not in public. That way people do not think you're just randomly talking to yourself. And you start talking to them like I'm talking to you right now. And what's going to happen over that 30 days and the more that you do it is you're figuring out a line of communication. And this is with everybody who is in witchcraft or spirituality. Gods and goddesses, spirit guides, ancestors, and everything in between, they're not going to send you a message that your own brain and body cannot incorporate or cannot translate, shall I say. Um, and again, over time, it's going to be different. But yes, they can show up in your dreams. One of my very, very good friends and my first love, Wolf, when he passed away 6 months to almost a year to that date, he came to me in a dream. He was an asshole because the dream was he faked his death, but he was like, yo, no, I understand. I'm dead. Like, I get it. And that's going to happen too. When you have somebody pass over, and I keep saying ancestors. When I mean ancestors, that can be anybody. It does not mean automatic blood relation. If you met somebody in living life and you basically feel like they're your family, they can become your family. Um, but it takes spirit time to transition. So, like, if somebody just passed away and you reach out to them and you don't get a response, they're not ignoring you. They themselves are in a transitional period of trying to figure out that, they're going through that process. Um, that's a great idea. I personally enjoy wind chimes. I really struggle with focusing. My mind will wander, and then I get annoyed with myself, and the moment is gone. I definitely understand that one. Trust me on that one. I do that every day. Um, but yeah, just do that for, I say 30 days, but normally most people that have started it, they don't stop. Because, and then cooking. I also do a thing where it's called cooking with the ancestors. You're literally cooking, but especially specifically like trying to cook their favorite meals when you're cooking with them, or when you're cooking that meal, talk to them. Because most families at some point in time always gathered around food. I mean, that's even throughout history. So these are small things that you can do that will connect and strengthen that relationship. Just let your mind wander and acknowledge those thoughts are there. Don't retrieve them. Say you're get back to you later. Yes, I love that. And that's what I've always been taught too. When you do meditate, let your mind run. Just completely let it run. Eventually your brain will kind of catch on to what you're trying to do. And then you can also say, come back later. Or what I like to tell people is when it comes with, you have to figure out your own personal way of how you receive messages. With me, I have anxiety. So I had to teach myself what was my anxiety and what were my own thoughts versus the thoughts of spirits. But I'm also claircognizant. So, and it took time. Please do not believe that, like, I just woke up one day and I'm like, oh, that's how. No, I have my own personal things. Like I said earlier, if I say something or if I'm teaching or talking to somebody and I get this random chill on both of my arms, like going straight down, normally that's spirit's way of validating that what you're saying is correct. And then I always go back to when I was giving the reading and their actual ancestor came through and I started physically doing things that I would not do or say. Um, and like I've creeped my partner out and we've been together almost 10 years and I still creep him out by how accurate I can be with ancestors that have been long gone that I've never met, never seen a picture of, but I wind up like mimicking their personalities or mimicking a personality trait. That's what I've been doing slowly. And it's so weird because, like, there are moments where I don't realize I'm doing it. Like, I have a hat over here that's, I call him Cousin Lotus, but that may be offensive to some people, so we're just going to call him Swamp Lotus. Um, that hat that was brought to me by my partner, the guy who owned it had passed away, and his wife randomly gave it to my partner. I can put that hat on and my country accent comes out way thicker and like different stages of it that I've never done before. So I'm pretty sure I've also been channeling him. Um, but it's also, you need to listen to your body. And what I like to tell myself is my anxiety normally is in my chest. Obviously, it's in my head too, but primarily it's in my chest. Always listen to your gut. Your gut is going to be that instinctual thing where, like, we've all had that situation to where we were invited to go do something, but we had that, like, we had that gut feeling like, no, we really shouldn't do it. You went anyways and a weird incident happened. That's your gut instinct. Spirit will also use that to be like, yep, no, stay here. My cousin died almost a year ago and he showed up himself to me in a dream. No, he's dead. Because of his death, I started my practice full time. Oh, I love that. Also, condolences. But that's how it is, and it's so weird because another teaching moment, really. Um, and if any Christians rewatch this, please listen to what I'm about to say if you've made it this far. So, my father-in-law is extremely devout Southern Baptist, right? But he himself sees things. He is a light. So when I got into the picture, he questioned everything that I did, but he accepted it. Like, he was never rude about it. He used to call me his little pagan. Due to some workings that I've done on him, and no, he did not have my permission. I did not have his permission, but I had his son's permission, my husband, basically, um, to help send them a couple of blessings with the current situations that they were going through. When my husband called him, our partner called him and told him that, he started questioning what he had been taught in the church, because he had always been taught that witchcraft is bad. It goes against God. But he realized by also living here short periods of time that we're not the stereotypes that a lot of people give, not just Christians, a lot of people give witches. And the episode that I mentioned at the very beginning of this by Seba, the Southern Fried Witch, that's the podcast show, Southern Fried Witch. You can find it on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, most other platforms. The last episode was them sitting down and interviewing this preacher. And this preacher stated that, he got a witch to bless his church. And it worked. And he was like, to any other witch out there, if you're putting in healing and loving and positivity, like you're trying to change things for the better, you're trying to help people, by all means, continue going. And it was in that moment, like, that episode made me fucking cry. Because for an ex-Christian, an ex-Pentecostal to be a full-time witch now, to be able to hear the words that I wish one preacher would have said to me growing up, it would have changed so many things. And I've actually finally reached that point where I will start incorporating multiple different things that I used to not do into my practice. And it wasn't until I saw a video online that made that click. So a lot of times when we start working with our ancestors, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to work with mine because they're Christian or Catholic. That's great. For one, I believe that when spirits pass over, we do, not all of them, some of them do lose that human instinct of judgment, right? But going to church, listening to Christian music, doing small things like that can also honor your ancestors that did those things periodically. Like right now, if my father-in-law were to invite me and my partner out to, and we have multiple times before, but it's only on those like family gatherings, special things with church, we'll go. I don't mind it because, I mean, obviously I'm not going to wear this and I'll tuck it in my shirt because I have respect. But at the same time, it's a way of also honoring them. Like my aunt, we went almost 15 years without even speaking after the fact that I came out of the closet. Luckily, we did get to reside that, but she still had very strict things that she would just not accept. It wasn't until after she passed that I got multiple validations, because we're going to say her smell is a skunk. If you understand what I'm saying, because I got to talk in code, you understand what I'm saying. Um, and I didn't have any said skunk in the house, and it would follow me around. That was her way of saying, okay, look, I understand now. Because, and the reason I believe this is because we have to think that, and a lot of people don't like to think about this. Okay, I'll try that. Thanks. It's sad I've had gifts my whole life naturally, but I've never learned all the things that comes with it. I'm 100% instinctual as the feeling comes. Oh, I love that. I love that. And same, which hopefully one day when I write that book, that's actually what it's going to be based on, is instinctual magic. But I learned that they also, due to what religion has done to certain people, they also may feel bad about cutting that person off, but they don't know how to express that. Like, luckily, I had the amazing opportunity to talk to my grandmother before, literally about a month before she passed away, or 3 months before she passed away. I got to talk to her about what I do and what I view when it comes to my craft. And it changed her entire perspective on what I was doing because, oh, hello, Hockey, and you fucking mockingbird. Hello, Freya. Sorry, the mockingbird is a fucking asshole. Um, it changed her entire dynamic because she was also part of that generation where you spoil the rod, you whatever the fuck you want to say. It was taught. Just like a lot of other things that are currently going on right now. I have to watch what I say because I don't want anybody connecting this to all the other shit on the platform. Um, but things of hate are a taught thing. Even in judgmental, it's a taught thing. We're one of the only species on this earth that are like the way that we are. Well, we will judge somebody on something we do not understand. And that's a lot of the reasons when I do have Christians commenting on my YouTube, coming at me in my lives when I did it on TikTok. If you go at somebody with the same energy that they're throwing towards you, nothing will be accomplished and nothing will get done. But if you sit there and say, hey, as long as you're respectful, I'll accept you. Thank you for the blessings. Thank you for the prayers. Because some witches get very offended when they're like, God bless you. Why? Why get offended? That's a random stranger blessing you. True enough, they're using their God. It's still a blessing. It's the fact that they went out of their way to bless you. And that's what I don't understand when some witches, they're like, well, no, I say hello. They're like, oh, no, I say witch bless you. Why? It's a blessing. Like I've had Christians like, well, I'm going to pray for you. Okay, thank you. I'll pray for you as well. It's the same damn thing. It's the same thing. Spell work is just like praying, except for it's a different style of praying. What are we doing? We are lighting a candle. We are anointing things to get a desired outcome. When somebody sits down and prays, what are they doing? They want a specific outcome. But people are not going to say that it's witchcraft. Is it witchcraft? Yes, 100,000%. But they're not going to say that. And that's okay. They don't have to. I'm not going around converting people, because if I did, that would be the exact thing with Christians knocking on people's doors or Jehovah Witnesses and things like that. Why? But as a teacher and a mentor, I know that if I can get that one person to sit down and listen for at least 5 to 6, maybe 10 minutes, I'm not going to change their perspective, but I will then implant, due to how I act, implant a thing of, oh, wait, maybe I was wrong. And the reason I came to this revolution was when I was on Facebook Lives, my live got shared in a fucking group of over like 1,000 trolls, and it was the most viewed video I've ever had on TikTok. I had over 1,000 followers or views. Some of the people that came there to troll me actually stopped and started listening, and they're like, oh, wait, holy shit. I actually like what you're talking about. And it's because I did not send back the same energy they were sending to me. It's almost like Gandhi. Gandhi, yes, I know there are a lot of problematic things with that, but the action that he did, as in he didn't take an action. If anything, he said, hit me more, hit me more. It fucks people up when you bring different energy to a very, very explosive situation. And I've took that. I just shared my Facebook group, but we won't troll you. I only have 32 members. Oh, thank you so much. And no, I love people sharing me. It was just it was a Facebook thing, and luckily that group's no longer there. And like last night, me and my partner were listening to songs, and I will try to share the song that I'm talking about. I randomly found this one song, and it's called I Am. That song, literally, and if you've been following me for a while, if you listen to that song, you'll understand what I mean. It is literally the foundation behind my practice. It is the foundation behind my life, because I do consider myself a spiritual witch, because I believe that there are truths in all religions, but that does not make all religions 100% truth. Basically, with all religions, or a lot of religions, people have manipulated it to what they want. For a witch or for a spiritual person, it's up to us to find those truths. But those truths are going to be different for everybody. Just like I've said when I tried doing the world healing event, which I'm still slowly trying to do, a lot of people are like, well, why don't we all come together and just pray for world peace? The problem with world peace, everybody's going to have a different definition of what world peace is. That's what I mean by that. But if you go about things, and it's like I've always told people, we focus so much on the mountains that we need to climb. But a lot of times we need to stop and look back at all the shit that we've accomplished that people said we never would. And I do it on a regular day basis. When all hell is breaking loose in my life, I will look at my partner and I'm like, it's okay. And he's like, how is this okay? Because I have been in 10 times worse situations. I have stayed at this house before for an entire week without running water because our well broke and my partner wasn't here and nobody else was here and I didn't have the means to fix it. I survived though. And yes, I will tell you, when it was finally fixed, I took about an hour-long shower. But I know that I can survive without it. I've slept in a car before. I've slept on a fucking couch. So many couches I've slept on. And now I'm finally at a point, because I did not give up. I'm at a point to where I have land. I have a home. Is it pretty? Fuck no. Is it falling apart? Yes. You know what? I don't care. I have a floor beneath me, a roof above me, walls around me, AC, heat when I need it. I got food and running water. That's all I need. And that's what more people need to look at. A lot of people, when the current circumstances happened on my platform on TikTok, my partner himself was like, no, you need to go defend yourself. Why? Why? If when it comes to drama or anything like that, the more you try to defend yourself with certain people or certain situations, the more you feed that energy, all you're doing is blowing the flames higher and higher and higher. Everybody at the end of the day is going to have their own depiction of your character. But we always have to realize, and I have reminded myself of this like 10 times in the past 3 days, at the end of the day, no matter the communities we build, outside of those communities, if we're on the internet and we're throwing our thoughts and ideas out into the cosmos, we're going to have random people judge us. But as long as you as long as you leave it at that, that's a random judgment. That is an observation that one person made off of a video or a comment or a post. That's it. That's okay. We're all learning. I'm learning. I learned so many things. I relearn or unlearn things every single day. We are imperfectly perfect humans. We're not perfect, but we're not imperfect either. It's this weird paradox. We're going to make mistakes. As long as we learn from those mistakes and we do not repeat them, then we're doing our thing. We're living. Are we thriving? No. I honestly, unless you're a millionaire or a billionaire, I don't think anybody's thriving right now, but we're living. We're surviving. Every day that we wake up is a day to somehow, some way change something that we couldn't change yesterday. The secret to happiness is never arguing with an idiot and never allowing negative options into your soul. Exactly, exactly. I'm glad I found your channel. I just ran across it like 10 minutes ago. Oh, hello and welcome. I'm so glad you found my channel too. And I'll admit, like, there have been so many questions that I've got to speak on certain topics in guarding witchcraft and stuff like that. And at one point in time, I used to tear the videos down, not realizing that I'm a teacher and a mentor. I cannot do that. Actually, this morning, I got tagged in something that was an amazing fucking idea regarding graveyard dirt. Using soldiers, military, all of that, using their dirt as protection. Now, yes, you can. Just please ask permission first. As long as you get permission, I think that is an amazing idea that I've never even thought of. But see, those are the ideas that we need. And true enough, I recently made a graveyard video where I was like, do not use your ancestral graveyard dirt or remains on your property. I overspoke. I overspoke because I did not realize that even outside of magic, people do that on a regular day basis. Um, so I mean the video's still up. That's perfectly okay. But I learned that if I try to speak on something that I don't know 100% of, I'm just feeding into that false narrative, that false information that's being spread. Like I have friends, I've lost friendships because they wanted to start wearing a pentagram. And I told them, I'm like, okay, if you do not consider yourself a practitioner, you need to do research on all sides of what that symbol means. And they're like, why? Because if somebody comes up to you and like, oh, so you're a Satanist, you can correct them and educate them on what that symbol actually means versus just being like, no, I'm a witch or something like that. Educate them. Tell them why they are wrong on the judgment that they made, but do it with facts. Again, don't argue with them because, like we said, and like I say, if you come across a person and it's like arguing with the mortar between the brick wall, it's a waste of time. You're never going to change their minds. As long as you identify that, you will save so much time and energy. It's not even funny. We need to make a witch community that we all live on the same land in separate areas, but we barter for stuff in each other. Yes. Oh my God. I talked about this on our TikTok live. It went from that to a magical mail service, like the flying broom. So many ideas can come with that. Like a magical library. Somebody needs to create a magical occult library. That is what we need. But with all of that being said, I am going to keep this short with just under an hour. Well, it's technically an hour and 1 minute. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna keep this short. Tomorrow is Friday. I have no idea how Fridays go in my life. More than likely though, I will not be going live. Hopefully I'll be able to go into town with my partner, even if that is to work. Not me work, me just go in with him to work. Um, and then next Wednesday I will not be going live. Of course, of course. Next Wednesday I won't go live just because I have an interview, and that following Wednesday I may go live earlier in the daytime. I'm not for sure. Um, but yeah, and like I said, I'll also post it here. I will be doing another full moon sale on my oracle readings, which is a full oracle reading for $10 via email. And I'll post when I start that, and this time I'm going to do it for 2 weeks. It's been very, very popular, and I love the fact that I can help other people, and then it also helps me as well. Um, so yeah, that is the thing. I did finish the community honey jar yesterday. I will be doing another one of those as well. Of course, of course. And then there are a couple ideas on podcast. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm super, super fucking excited for this as well. But yeah, thank y'all so much for the likes, the views, the shares, the follows. We're almost at 600 subscribers on here, which is great because when I break that, we're just going to be, again, my end goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I know I can do it because I've done it on my TikTok before. So that's the life goal here. And then eventually throughout the year, things and content will get better to the point where like eventually my videos will go from this screen to like a full landscape screen. But yeah, thank y'all so much. I hope y'all are having an amazing day. And until then, I will talk to y'all later. Peace.